Welcome back to Stories from the River. I'm your guest host, Hope Stalker, and we're here to present a special series, Women in Leadership. In honor of Women's History Month, we've assembled some of Broad River's best and brightest leaders to share their stories, lend some insights on what it's like to be a woman in a leadership role today, and to have a little fun. Today we have Renee Bradley, the Regional Manager from the North, Sam Blum, Associate Director of Customer Experience, and Anita Harris, Director of Customer Experience. Welcome, ladies.
Thank
you.
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
Let's start by having you tell us a little bit about how long you've been here and what you did when you first started the river, because I know some of you have had some amazing journeys along the way. Renee, we'll start with you.
Okay, I've been here 10 and a half years, so a long time. I got hired in as a general manager in training, and I grew into a general manager out of training, then to an area manager, district manager, and now regional manager over all of the North and Charlotte stores.
Nice. Anita, how about you?
I came in as the manager of customer care back then because it was called customer care. 14 years ago? 14 years ago. And then that's mainly what I've done. I had a little stint where I was a liaison with other departments and I was like an individual contributor. And now I'm the director. So, yeah.
And Sam?
I have been with Broad River 7.5 years. We'll go ahead and address the elephant in the living room here that this is my mother.
Yeah.
So she recruited me, and I'm so glad she did. But I started with the River as the retail guest experience manager. We love a good title around here. And then I had a brief stint in IT, and then rejoined my partner in crime here back in the CX world a couple years ago.
So you've had quite a whirlwind journey. You've gone from one to the other and back home.
Back home.
With Anita there.
Yes.
When you first started, did you ever picture yourself in a leadership role? I know most of you started in leadership roles, but these expanded leadership roles that you currently have, Renee, did you see that for yourself?
I really did not. I was really excited to get recruited by Broad River, and when I got here, I was just so enamored with the company, loved my job so much. I really didn't plan for this or even see it coming. I was really, really happy and satisfied and content doing what I was doing. A couple times it came up and it was scary to me. I felt like I'm not worthy of that position, or I don't know if I could do that. So no, I never dreamed this big.
Samantha, how about you?
Definitely not.
Definitely.
Oh my gosh, no. I came from another furniture company and I knew growth was important to me. I knew I was always chasing something, but I didn't really understand what leadership meant. And I think Broad River helped define that for me and kind of model that for me. So I just was so happy to be here and learn and, gain all of the experience that I have so far. And like Renee, my mom, I did not think that I would have, the opportunity or that I was worthy of it. But when it came about, I was ready and I tackled it head on. So
nice.
Yeah.
Anita, how about you?
I think when I first started, I was just happy to be the manager and I was cool with that. And then later on, in my career here, then I was like, okay, wait a minute, I should be wanting more, So I think that later on, not in the beginning, I was, happy to have the position that I had, but being here, you see people growing and you hear from your leaders that you have the capability to grow, then I think that's when you start taking it to heart, like, okay, I should be wanting more.
Right. And I think for a lot of us, that grew out of necessity just by what the business was doing. The business was growing and we needed these new, more, kind of fine-tuned positions and leaders to lead these teams. And I think that really opened a lot of doors for us. We had to say, I see a need there and I think I can do that.
Right.
definitely.
Absolutely. I think for me, I can remember bombing my interview with Jonathan Ishii. I literally had to stop in the middle of the interview and say, I'm sorry, I'm babbling and I don't even know I don't remember what question you asked me. But I did say to him then that if you're, and Stacey McCormick will laugh at this, but if you're looking for a numbers person, I'm not your girl. And I think once I got into Broad River, the atmosphere here does entice you to grow, and they teach you to grow. We get poured into, and taught how to be a leader versus being a manager.
Mm-hmm.
And so you come in not dreaming big and realize, hey, I want to do more, not just for yourself, but also for the company. You want to make sure Broad River stays true to who we really are.
That's right. That's right. Sam, do you feel like that's what motivated you to become a leader or to elevate your leadership experience there?
Absolutely. I think that I constantly saw these amazing people around me achieving their goals, and like you said, Hope, like the little the little holes that grew from the expansion that we've had and the need that we had. And I was just kind of lucky to slide into positions that like catered to what I was passionate about or good at, and Broad River helped foster that for me.
That's amazing. Anita, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in your leadership career?
Some of the biggest challenges I think just come from sometimes me, right?
Yeah.
Not wanting, or I don't know if it's not wanting, but not maybe being ready for some of the obstacles that come your way. Not knowing how to navigate certain situations. That has come through time and age. I think sometimes just growing into who you are helps you to be better at being who you are. But I think some of my obstacles just came from me being in my own way, right? Like that was the biggest challenge, me doubting myself or doubting my capability, doubting basically how smart I was. I'm a smart cookie most of the time. But doubting myself has been my biggest challenge more than people. It's just been me getting in my own way sometimes.
Yeah. I think we got to get out of our heads. That's one thing.
Yes.
100%.
The first episode that we filmed, that was one of the kind of overarching themes, was we got to get out of our heads sometimes and look around. What are some of the challenges that you face? You're on a retail side, so you're not more in a corporate setting like we are, but I imagine it's as hard, if not harder, out in the retail.
It is hard. I think the biggest challenge for me was exactly what Anita said, getting out of my own way and believing in myself, feeling worthy or valuable. But primarily from a personal side or a more holistic side was being a mom and working in retail and being able to keep a true sense of family and tradition and then how do you balance that? And now I'm a grandmother. So, I have adult children. That brings, you're still a mom,
right?
But it's very different. And now there's grandchildren, which are my whole heart and all my joy. So I want to be with them as much as possible. So trying to balance all of that has always been the hardest thing for me, to still be able to be a good mom, a good wife, a good grandmother, a good daughter, make sure everybody's okay, because that's what we do as moms, but also make sure that the people that you're responsible for and that you're serving at work are okay too.
Yeah.
And that balance is a roller coaster ride. Sometimes there's going to be more times given to one side than the other. And I think learning to understand that it's not a 50-50 always. And that, it's very fluid and you just kind of got to go with it.
Right. Yeah. And I think that faces a lot of us. We're all in those various stages of motherhood, grandmotherhood. Maybe one day.
I hope it will be for you, Hope. It's amazing.
Sam, what are some characteristics that women may possess that make them more effective leaders?
Great question. I'm a little, biased on the women front, but I think that we are just naturally empathetic people who genuinely care about the people we work with every day. So with that comes, listening to understand and care and offer support and follow through. And it's not to say that men don't do those things, but we just happen to, take it up a notch usually. Right. So I think just genuine curiosity and care for your team, like about their lives outside of work, what they're doing. Having empathy in situations where, they might need some time off for family or, they just need a mental health day. Like we might be a little more empathetic to those kinds of situations.
Kind of understand where they're coming from as well and what the struggles, what those struggles are.
Exactly.
And we've all been there. Anita, what about you? What characteristics do you think women possess that make them more effective leaders?
I think we as women are just natural leaders. Like a lot of times I don't think women realize it, but you're leading your family every day. You're taking care of kids, just like you said, taking care of children, taking care of parents, taking care of or serving the people that you work with. But we're just it's instinct in us. Like, I think that's how we were made to make sure that everything is running and moving the way that it should, that everybody knows what they're supposed to do and that they're doing it. I think it's leadership, and I think it's just who we are as people.
That's amazing. And it's true. It's really true. Renee, do you have an answer?
Yeah, I think that women are a lot of times are a little more understated. We're more vulnerable. But I also think we're very organized, and by nature, we're problem solvers. We're fixers.
Right.
So I think a lot of times for us, we're just like, okay, we can just fix this. So we're the doers. And people don't see that as leadership. They see that as like, you're the doer, not the leader. But to Anita's point, we are leading. It's just more subtle.
Right. What are some dangerous traits that could cause a woman in a leadership role to be sidelined? Sam, do you have an opinion on that?
I do. I think from a female perspective, we can get, I hate to use the word labeled, but we can hear words like emotional or sensitive even. And while we do tend to lean on the emotional side of things, I think something that stuck out for me is I don't want you to mistake my emotions for passion. And I am super passionate about what I do. I'm super passionate about this company, and being emotional is okay. It's okay to have big emotions in this world, and embracing them might feel uncomfortable for some people, but it's really a great thing. The other side of that, it would be from a male's perspective, this term that we've all heard, I'm sure, mansplaining. Yeah, we Anita and I have gone to a few conferences where we've learned about women empowerment and women in leadership, and really been a part of this what's called CC Women at Customer Contact Week, and the whole mansplaining thing just can be very dangerous for a woman. You know, you've said exactly what you intended to say, but then someone comes in right behind you and repeats what you've just said, but kind of diminishes your statement. So I think calling that out in the moment and being comfortable enough to do that is key. And it's gonna give you your voice back.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's really powerful too. That's the one thing we don't want to be taken away from us is our voice. We fought very long and very hard to have a voice, and we don't need somebody to mansplain that away for us.
We do not. We do not.
And it's interesting that you use those words, because in the last session, Lynn knows her characteristic for being a great leader was empathy. But one of the traits that could sideline somebody was empathy as well, because, we're seen as being too friendly, too familiar, and you can't lead if you're their friend. Well, I can be involved in somebody's life and not go out for drinks on the weekend. Don't tell me how to manage the relationships around me. And that's what they are. They are connections and relationships. They're not just numbers. They're not just people. They're people. They're not, we're big on human capital, where they're not resources to be used up. They're capital to be invested in. How have you built confidence in yourself and your abilities through the years? Anita, I know you've been around as long as I have. It's been since that time up there on Statesville Avenue at 77 and 85. But through the years, how have you felt your confidence grow, and how have you built that within yourself and your abilities?
I think, like I said before, some of it is just age. You get to a point where you're like, I'm just going to say what I want to say, It's like, what's going to happen, right? So I think age and just being comfortable with who you are. Because when you're first out of college, I wasn't really comfortable with who I was. But so age and time has gotten me there. But also having some great mentors in my life. My mom, of course, was one. My aunt, who drives like she's a go-getter. She makes sure things get done. Having her in my life. But I think it's just, and then being around other strong women, you ladies, learning from you guys, learning from the people that you talk to every day or maybe go to church with. But there are women that have just spoken into my life, and now I can see what they were saying. I can understand better maybe what they were saying, how they were acting, what they were doing, and they're my role models. And so through all of that, I'm living and walking in who I'm supposed to be.
Renee, how have you built confidence in yourself and your abilities through the years?
That's been hard for me. I am not a naturally confident person, and I can't say that I am now. I'm still a work in progress. One of the things that I do is tell myself every morning, I'm enough. I'm worthy and I am enough. I've had to learn to be kind to myself and every day celebrate any small wins that I had throughout the day and understand that confidence doesn't come from only big things that you were able to do, but from all the small wins through the journey. And so I make myself each night like go through my day and find the highlights of where I felt proud or I felt like I did a good job or I was helpful to somebody or I was just kind to somebody. Because when you make somebody else's day, you make your own day. So I really believe we read a book as a company called The Power of Moments. And that's really how I live my life now is just moment by moment and try to walk away from every moment knowing that I did something well and that I started a ripple for something good out there that's infinite. So, but that's hard. Building confidence is hard.
Very hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard. When you have been, I don't know, you guys remember the book from years ago, Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. We had to move from the back row of the coffee getters and the pastry putter outers to move our seats up to sit at the table and not just sit at the table, but lean in and join the conversation. And that's a leap for somebody to take when they're not used to that.
Right.
Yeah. I also think for women, at least for me, I won't say for everybody, I thought my confidence would come from other people. Like we're naturally as women, we're pleasers and we want to be cooperative and we want to please other people. So you feel like if you get validated by other people, your confidence will come. And what I learned, I think, with age and time was that it's got to come from within. No one else can give that to you.
Right. I heard something one time, and this has to do with mentors, getting back to something Anita said earlier. If you didn't have a mentor or you can't find one, be one. Because you can learn from the youth in the group. I point to Samantha. She's the youth of the group today. But Samantha, do you think it's important for women of all ages to have a mentor?
Absolutely. I think that to Anita's point, women tend to be mentors and not realize it already. You know, like we're mothers, we're daughters, we're people of in that role already that we might not think, okay, we're acting as a person who's going to lead someone through something significant in their life. And while it's important to have them, you know, in a professional setting, I think it's just as important in a personal setting as well.
Yeah.
And that's where we really come to fit in with that empathetic side.
Right.
So I totally support mentorship and think that it's valuable for everyone.
Anita, do you believe, I know you believe it's important for a woman to have a mentor. What about being a mentor? How would that enrich your life as a leader?
It enriches your life because I think kind of what Renee was saying, you get help because you're helping someone else, or you feel joy because you're helping someone else, and it feels good to serve someone. It feels good to offer advice or just to listen. But I think it's just so important, especially being a Black woman and having younger Black women, see me as a mentor. First of all, it's very like I'm surprised anybody would see that in me, but they do, and I appreciate that. But I learned so much from them too. Like even in that mentorship, just how they think, how they see things a little bit differently than I have sometimes just because of the age difference. They see things clearer than maybe I had. So during the mentorship, I'm helping them, but they're also helping me, and we're growing together. So it's a wonderful thing.
That's powerful. One of this podcast actually came from the engagement survey we just had. It was, I feel like we need a women in leadership group at Broad River so that we can tap into some of this mentorship and maybe get programs going for younger women who are just joining the company, or maybe some older women need some. I feel like I need a mentor sometimes too.
Listen, two people that I consider to be great mentors for me is my daughter, and Heather Greenwood, who's my daughter's age. So, you know, I think that there's so much to learn from people that are younger than you, and it doesn't have to be somebody in your own age group or above. And I'm getting to an age where that's not going to be an option much longer. But I think that it's important to get perspective and honesty and direction from people of all ages.
Right.
So, yeah.
Talk about confidence. Can we talk about Heather Greenwood for a minute? I mean, if we could bottle what she has.
I just need like an ounce
Just
of that
a little bit
confidence,
of
just
it.
a little bit.
I think I would be good for the rest of my life. So I think that's how
Agreed.
women could support other women at Broad River. I think that's one of the things that we possibly need to work on in this year of Connect for us is to get that going. I think that would be great.
I agree.
This is a good start.
I agree. Can I add on to that?
You may.
For another area that Broad River might be able to do. So the conference that I was talking about earlier that Anita and I have been to, the Customer Contact Week, it's they have a segment on CC women, and it's specifically designed for women and their allies. So what's really cool is that they've identified men in leadership roles or in the customer contact space that are women's allies and women's partners and women's advocates.
Oh, wow.
And I think identifying that group at Broad River would be extremely powerful. If you walk into a room nervous and you don't quite have the confidence that you're hoping to have, but you know you have an ally in the room who's going to lift you up instead of mansplain, it makes the world completely different, right? Like it makes you feel that much more comfortable and confident. And I think that would be really powerful for us.
I think so too. And I think we gave this caveat in the first episode that we do work for a very evolved group of male leaders. We don't necessarily experience a lot of the same things that other women typically do in the workplace. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but we do work with a much more evolved group of leaders. So just to say that's your PSA for this segment.
That's extremely true. I'm glad you said it, Hope, because a lot of what I'm talking about is coming from, in my career, but in past companies, not necessarily at Broad River.
And maybe even from before the last 10 years, we may have had different leaders in different roles within Broad River who didn't understand and didn't see. And I think it took a lot of our current leaders going through fatherhood and seeing what their wives were going through to really appreciate what it's like that we're giving you, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and then we're going home and doing 8 hours a day. And, that 4:00 cup of coffee really helps.
I agree, Hope.
Absolutely.
What's one piece of advice you wish you could give your younger self, Renee?
I think just be kind to yourself. Know that it's okay to make mistakes. You are going to fail and you're going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah. We have to be transparent. And I think that builds a great team too when they see you make a mistake and own up to it and be transparent with it. I think that really goes to foster that connection with your team as well. Samantha?
I would say, it's a hard question. I would say, try and be as self-aware as possible. If you know what your areas of opportunity are and what your strengths are, then you're walking into the room or walking into an uncomfortable situation ahead. And no one else can give you that information and make you feel bad about it or make you feel really great about it because you already know it. And you know that it's something you're going to work on and you know it's something you need to improve upon, but it's yours and you've owned it and embraced it instead of feeling, defeated if another leader were to call it out. Right. So I think just being self-aware and knowing who you are and, what you're really great at and also what you need to work on.
Nice. Anita?
Well, I think Renee and Sam said everything that I was going to say. The only thing I would add is to have a short memory. So when you do make a mistake, you got to learn from it and move on. You can't dwell on it. And I think as women, we dwell on it. We make a mistake and it just ruins our week, our month, or whatever. And we've got to be able to say, okay, I jacked that up. Here's what I learned, and then move on and forget it. In basketball, they say shoot or shoot. Like even if you're having a bad night, you still shoot. So I messed up, I had a bad day, but I'm going to keep on going.
I love that.
So. Yeah, because I'm still reliving stuff that happened 5 years ago.
Exactly.
Same.
So we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to start talking about gender roles and stereotypes. And like I just said, we may not experience as much of that in our current roles, but throughout our careers we have. So women who are assertive and take charge, they can be called bossy or other B words. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
But not men. They're known as something completely different. Do you think this is still true today? I mean, that's an older study, but do you think that's still true today, or do you think that's changing for women?
I think it's changing, but I do think there are definitely circumstances where that is the case. But I think as women become more prominent in business, we see more CEOs that are ladies. We see more women just, out front of everything, of everybody. That stereotype is changing, but it's still there. There are definitely people who feel that way. But I think every day our story is getting written differently. So before, whoever heard of Women's History Month?
Right.
I didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just something that's been recent. And I think it's things like that. And the more you see women out and about, like talking and leading companies and leading people and having CC women and, just more organizations, more conferences, whatever the case may be, where there are women leading things, that helps to change that narrative. But I think in some cases it is definitely still there.
Right.
Just to add on to that, not that this is a plug for CC Women or Customer Contact Weekend
Right,
anyway. I'm sorry that we keep bringing them up, but they've done something that that really connected with Anita and I, and that was their slogan, I guess, to exist loudly. And the more we do that, the less uncomfortable it feels when we are assertive in certain situations. We're existing just as loud as you are, and there's nothing wrong with that. And like Anita was saying, if we have a seat at the table and more women are being, promoted to different levels or higher levels, I should say, then it's just challenging that naturalness, that their comfortability with being men typically. So the more we're promoted, the more we're pushed through and have a voice, the more natural it's going to feel.
Right. We fall hard for that voice,
exactly.
right? Renee, what do you think about women being called bossy or other B words when they're assertive?
Yeah, I think that that's definitely changing. I think that when years ago when I was just starting my career, women who were successful were the women who were a little more aggressive or a little more bossy because that's what they thought they had to do. Right. They had to emulate what men did to be seen or heard and get a seat at the table. I think that has definitely changed over the years. I think companies have become much softer to and more inclusive of women. And now I almost think that the perspective has swung to the other side of the pendulum where women leaders are seen as emotional or protective of their teams or soft or so I almost feel like we're now seen differently, but there's still a bias. But I think it's just different. I think that we as women have realized we got to do it our way. And, I think as women, most of us lean into emotional intelligence, EQ instead of IQ, where men are looking more at the IQ. And I think that's the biggest battle right now is that a lot of times women don't feel smart enough. But so I think it's changed. I don't think that the whole B word is the way it used to be.
And I don't think so either.
Yeah, especially not here.
And I think a lot of that has to come from the fact that our leaders are getting younger and they may have seen their mothers go to work. They may have been in homes where their mothers had to hit the workplace and see those struggles that they fought and still have to run me to the orthodontist or, to get my cast off or whatever.
That's exactly right. I think you're right, Hope, because back in the day when I first started, the men that I worked with had stay-at-home wives. And so there was always for me this sense of what do they think of me? Like, do they think that I don't think my family's important enough to stay home? Or do they think my husband's less than because he can't provide enough for me to stay at home? Right. So for me, it was this automatic feeling of not being worthy or seen as less than or being judged. And now women in the workforce is so common
Mhm.
that nobody thinks twice about it.
Right.
And I think that's awesome.
It is awesome.
Because sometimes you could stay at home if you wanted to. And it's okay to not want to be a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home wife.
Right.
It's okay to want to have a career and, do something outside of the home. And
Mhm.
so I think
Yeah.
that's been a big change.
Yeah, I wrestle with that. Sometimes I want to be a feminist and change the world, and sometimes I just want to be a stay-at-home dog mom.
Yeah.
I kind of wait till my kids are grown, though.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that a man, when he applies for a job, he will do it when he has about 60% of the requirements. But a woman will wait until she has 100%. Why do you think that is, Anita?
Because I think we think we have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And we think we have to be perfect. We think that there's no room for growth. If there's no room for us to grow in that role, we have to come in knowing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that when I read that question. It's like, I will look at a job description, in the past, look at a job description, and you're right. It's like, oh, man, I can't do that. I can't do that. But every new job you go to, somebody's got to train you on something,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, so we will look at it like that, like, okay, maybe I can't do that today, but they're going to have to train me. They're going to have to tell me how they want this particular job done. But I think we just feel like we have to be perfect. Like everything has to line up exactly right.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.